My brother got married without inviting me because his new wife decided I was toxic. Toxic. That was the word she used, casually, almost playfully, as if she were labeling a scented candle or a skincare ingredient, not a sister who spent 15 years keeping her husband out of bankruptcy, out of jail, and out of the kind of trouble that burrows into credit reports and never fully washes off. I didn't hear it from them directly. I heard it on a live stream. A wedding live stream. The screen on my laptop flickered with golden vineyard light, all curated aesthetics, muted florals, manicured vines twisting around trellises exactly as Instagram demanded. Their guests lifted champagne flutes under a peach-colored sky while I sat alone under the blue glow of a hotel lamp, surrounded not by friends or celebration, but by spreadsheets, quarterly forecasts, and 3 different binders preparing me for a merger negotiation at 8 a.m. the next morning. And then I heard my brother laugh. "She's probably watching," he said, tapping the microphone clipped to his lapel. "Hi, sis. Hope you're enjoying the, corporate dungeon." His bride, immaculate, all gloss and curated charm, leaned into the frame. "This is a toxic-free wedding," she announced, blowing a kiss toward the camera. "And that includes family ATMs." The crowd laughed. He laughed. And I sat there in my tailored blazer and undone hair, feeling the kind of stillness that comes right before an earthquake. He wore our father's watch. The watch I thought I had lost. The watch that had vanished from my locked apartment 3 months earlier, which I had quietly torn my life apart looking for, convinced I was simply overworked and forgetful. But no. There it was, gleaming under the fairy lights on the wrist of a man who once cried on my couch because he couldn't afford to replace bald tires on his truck. A man I had raised more than I had raised myself. I should have cried. Or screamed. Or thrown the laptop across the room. But something inside me clicked into place, cool, precise, familiar. The same mind that had carried me through investment crises and hostile acquisitions began quietly assembling numbers, timelines, leverage points. They thought excluding me would hurt me. They thought calling me toxic would break me. What they didn't understand, what they had never understood, was that I never used my power out of anger. I used it out of clarity. And in that moment, watching them toast to their future on a live stream I was never meant to see, I realized I wasn't obligated to save him anymore. But I could certainly stop enabling him. And I could reclaim every string I had been holding for years. Their lifestyle didn't collapse overnight. No. It collapsed exactly the way I designed it to, piece by piece, signature by signature, with the polite inevitability of a contract maturing. They wanted a toxic-free wedding. I was about to give them a toxic-free life. I used to believe that responsibility was a kind of inheritance. Some families passed down jewelry, land, businesses. Mine passed down duty. I was 21 when our mother died. My brother, Lucas, was 16, wild, impulsive, a spark without a container. At the funeral, while relatives murmured logistics and condolences, my mother's best friend pulled me aside and took both my hands in hers. "Your mother always said," she whispered through tears, "take care of him. He needs you." Those words branded themselves onto me. Not as a request, as a mandate. My first and longest standing contract. I didn't get a chance to grieve like normal people do. I went straight from her hospital room to negotiating with our landlord about late rent, then to filling out insurance claim paperwork, then to signing Lucas out of a weekend in juvenile detention because he had been caught joyriding with friends during the week she died. I became the responsible one by default, or maybe by desperation. I worked my way through college with 2 jobs, ate canned soup while Lucas inhaled takeout, and memorized credit card APRs the way other girls memorized celebrity gossip. People think you become good with money because you're greedy. No. You become good with money because you learn, early, that money is the only thing that stops your world from burning down. By 28, I'd climbed from analyst to senior director at a mid-sized financial firm. By 31, I was VP of finance. Now, at 34, I serve as interim CFO during a merger so large our CEO keeps antacids in his desk drawer like a decorative feature. My condo is sleek and spare, marble counters, clean lines, a view of the bay that looks almost like a painting at dusk. People assume minimalism is a style choice. It isn't. It's the absence of chaos. It's everything I didn't have growing up. Lucas, meanwhile, lived from crisis to crisis, as if problems were oxygen and he needed constant refills to survive. Every call began with, "Hey, don't be mad," which was always followed by some combination of, "I messed up. I didn't know interest worked like that. Can you just cover this until Friday? I promise I'll pay you back." He never paid me back. Not once. And yet, I covered everything. When his business partner ran off with their funds. When he broke his wrist in a bar fight. When he racked up $11,000 in credit card debt on investments he couldn't name. When he fell behind on rent for the third time and the landlord threatened eviction. I wired the payments. I negotiated with collections. I added him to my company's vehicle program because he claimed he needed reliable transportation to finally get his life together. He didn't get his life together. But every time I questioned whether I should stop helping, I saw my mother's face, pale and sunken in those last weeks, whispering through fading breath, "Take care of him." It took years to realize that taking care of him didn't mean sacrificing myself to his mistakes. But the lesson came slow. And painful. The first time I met his now wife, I felt something sour coil in my stomach. Her name is Tessa, an aspiring influencer with a curated aesthetic and an aversion to work that involved anything heavier than a ring light. She had a talent for weaponizing charm, the kind of girl who said things like, "I'm just brutally honest," right before insulting you and acting shocked you weren't grateful. But Lucas loved her. Or thought he did. And he was starved for any attention that made him feel special. The first crack appeared when she suggested they take a luxury vacation to reset spiritually, which was influencer speak for, "Please fund a trip I can post about." Lucas promised her the trip. Then he called me 3 days later, choking on his words. "Just until payday," he said. "I put it on the card you gave me, you know, that company one. Because I thought it would be reimbursable." It wasn't. He knew it wasn't. I covered it anyway. But the debt wasn't the painful part. The painful part was that he didn't even say thank you. Over the next year, she chipped at me subtly, a comment here, a dig there. "You know, it's not normal for sisters to be so controlling. Some people just love power. We prefer to live authentically, without all that cold calculation." Cold calculation. Funny how people insult the very skill they rely on. Still, nothing prepared me for the moment I saw that watch on his wrist during the live stream. It wasn't just any watch. It was our father's Omega Seamaster, the one he wore every day until he died in a construction accident when we were kids. After the funeral, Mom kept it in a velvet box. When she passed, it became mine. Not because it was worth several $1,000s, which it was, but because it was the last physical thing that still smelled faintly like him, of cedar and engine oil and winter air. I kept it in a small safe in my bedroom. One day, 3 months before the wedding, it was gone. I searched every inch of my condo, every drawer. I tore apart closets, checked behind appliances, crawled on the floor looking under furniture. I thought I was losing my mind. I blamed work stress. I blamed sleep deprivation. I blamed myself. Seeing it on Lucas's wrist ripped open something I didn't know was still alive inside me. And then there was the caption pinned on their live stream, "A wedding free of negativity, drama, and toxic family." Sparkles ring sparkles, 1,000 little hearts floated up the screen like celebratory confetti. He had taken my father's watch. He had taken my invitation. And they had taken my reputation, too, publicly, casually, as if they were narrating an episode of their own lives in which I was just an inconvenient character they'd decided to write out. I closed my laptop slowly, carefully. Not in anger, but in clarity. For the first time, I realized that my promise to my mother wasn't a chain I had to drag forever. A promise has conditions. It assumes mutual effort. It assumes love. Lucas had turned that promise into a weapon. And I was done bleeding for it. I didn't know then exactly how things would unfold, only that something had shifted inside me, like a pendulum swinging away from a lifetime of guilt. They had kicked the responsible one out of the narrative. What they forgot was that I controlled every financial thread woven through their lives. And threads, when pulled carefully, unravel everything. The morning after the live stream, I woke in the hotel room to a thin blade of sunlight cutting through the blackout curtains. My eyes felt sandpapered, my throat tight from a night spent silent but not still. I hadn't slept. Not really. I drifted in and out of shallow cycles, catching fragments of dreams where Lucas held up my father's watch and laughed, or where my mother whispered a promise I couldn't quite hear. At 6:03 a.m., I gave up. I showered, dressed in the same navy suit I'd worn yesterday, and sat at the small desk overlooking the parking lot. I opened my laptop. The live stream link was still on the screen. I closed it. There was an email waiting for me. From Lucas, subject, LOL. That was never a good sign. The email contained exactly one line: guess you saw it. Don't make it a big deal. We just wanted good vibes. No apology. No explanation. Not even the courtesy of pretending he hadn't knowingly excluded me. I didn't respond. At 8 a.m., I stepped into the conference room for the merger meeting. Normally, I'd run these negotiations with surgical discipline, projecting calm authority, anticipating objections, pivoting with numerical precision. Today, it felt like operating through fog. I kept seeing that watch. Our CEO, Marcus, gave me a searching look as he closed the door. He's a tall man with a presence that makes rooms fall quiet without him ever asking. You all right? He murmured. Fine. He studied me for half a beat longer, then nodded. The meeting began. For the next 4 hours, I forced my brain to behave, to categorize risk exposures, speak in probabilities, negotiate earnouts, and post-acquisition staffing structures. But the moment the meeting ended and the door shut behind the last executive, my composure cracked. Marcus stayed behind. Talk to me. I hesitated. I hated looking weak in front of him, or anyone, but Marcus wasn't the type to weaponize cracks. He was, unfortunately, annoyingly perceptive. It's personal, I said quietly. Is it going to spill into professional? His tone wasn't accusatory, it was logistical. Like he was assessing whether a building needed new wiring. It already is, I admitted. He pulled out a chair. I sat. When I finished explaining, the exclusion, the live stream, the theft, he didn't offer pity. He sat back, crossed his arms, and said, "Show me the financial footprint." It took me a second to understand. He wasn't asking emotionally, he was asking operationally. You've supported him, he said. So the question is, how deep does the entanglement go? I pulled up my spreadsheets. Years of transfers. Payment records. The company vehicle assignment. The secondary credit card attached to my corporate account. The condo clause that listed Lucas as an emergency occupant. The insurance rider I'd added for him. The quiet, endless list of safety nets I'd constructed. Marcus exhaled slowly. Not disapproving. Calculating. You realize, he said, tapping one finger against the table, that all of this puts you at risk. Professionally. Legally. Reputationally. I know. Then why did you do it? Because he needed me. Because I promised. Because I didn't know how to stop. But what I said aloud was, it felt like the responsible thing to do. He huffed. Responsible doesn't mean sacrificial. Then he leaned forward. I'm going to be very clear. We're about to close the largest merger this company has ever executed. Any instability, any reputational damage, can jeopardize the deal. If your brother or his wife decide to escalate publicly, we need to get ahead of it. He paused meaningfully. Do you need corporate counsel? I blinked. For what? To protect yourself. Because this isn't just a family dispute. Not anymore. Once they dragged your company into it on social media, he slid his phone across the table. On the screen was a TikTok posted by Tessa. Her face filled the frame, lip gloss sparkling, eyes bright with performative grief. It's so sad, she said dramatically, pressing a manicured hand to her chest. We invited her to the wedding, we did, but she refused to come unless she got to approve the budget and manage the expenses, like we're her clients. She's obsessed with control. She even threatened to sabotage our accounts. We just want to start our marriage without toxic people dragging us down. She pouted. Pray for us. And below it, dozens of comments, cut her off. Financial abusers are real. Tag her company, they should know what she's doing. Some had. They tagged our corporate account, the merger partner's account, even Marcus personally. A cold, clean feeling washed over me. Not fear, but clarity. The same clarity I'd had the night before. I'll handle it, I said. Marcus nodded slowly. Do it carefully. Back at my condo that evening, I unlocked the door and felt the familiar quiet swallow me. Usually, that silence soothed me. Tonight it pressed in, heavy and accusing, as if the walls themselves were asking how I could have been so blind. I poured myself a glass of water. I sat at the kitchen island. And I let myself remember. I remembered Lucas at 16, tall, gifted, angry at the world for taking our mother. I remembered the way he used to fall asleep on the couch while I did chemistry homework beside him, how he would pretend he wasn't scared when debt collectors called the house. I remembered his laugh, the one he used to have before adulthood carved it into something sharper, more defensive. I remembered the time he crashed Mom's old car into a ravine. I'd been 19, working evenings at a campus cafe, when the hospital called. I emptied my savings to pay the tow fee because he didn't want to tell Mom's sister. He hugged me and said, "You're the best sister in the world." And somehow, that sentence became a leash. My phone buzzed. A voicemail from my attorney, Helen. I'd left her a message earlier asking her to check something regarding the missing watch. I hadn't explained why. I didn't need to. Helen is the type who can extract context from tone alone. I played the message. Good evening. I reviewed the building's entry logs, per your request. There was a keycard entry 3 months ago during a window when you weren't home. The individual used your brother's duplicate keycard. Additionally, security pulled footage. My stomach tightened. She continued. I sent the file to your private email. I think you'll want to see it. Hands suddenly cold, I opened my email. There it was, a single file, time-stamped, labeled floor 17, north hallway camera. I pressed play. There was Lucas. Letting himself into my apartment. Looking around. Heading straight to my bedroom. Emerging 10 minutes later with a small velvet box. My father's watch. He didn't hesitate. He didn't look guilty. He didn't even look conflicted. He looked entitled. The video ended. Something inside me ended with it. Not love, because that had been chipped away long ago, slowly, painfully. Not loyalty, because that had become a form of self-harm. No. What ended was obligation. The kind born from promises whispered by dying mothers. I sat back in my chair, breathing slowly, evenly, until my pulse stopped hammering. I opened a blank document. I titled it, Family Liabilities, Action Plan. It was habit, the way my mind turned pain into strategy, chaos into spreadsheets. But this time, something was different. This wasn't a rescue plan. This was an exit plan. A boundary written in financial language, the only language Lucas ever understood. But first, I needed to wait. Wait for them to make their next move. Wait for the entitlement to crest. Wait for them to give me the leverage I needed to sever the tie cleanly, irrevocably. I didn't have to wait long. The next injustice arrived the very next morning, wrapped in pastel filters and deceit. The next morning, before I even finished pouring my first cup of coffee, my phone lit up with a barrage of notifications, tags, mentions, messages from colleagues, even a Slack ping from our communications director. I tapped the first notification. It was another video. Of course it was. Tessa stood on a balcony overlooking the vineyard from her wedding venue, hair in loose waves, robes silk and white. She looked like she was filming an ad for wellness retreats and emotional manipulation. I wasn't going to talk about this, she began, voice trembling with theatrical fragility, but I've been getting so many questions, and I just want to set the record straight. My stomach tightened with a familiar dread, the dread of seeing lies form in real time, like mold spreading across something once clean. So, she continued, widening her eyes, we did invite my husband's sister, but she refused to come unless she could oversee the wedding budget. And when we said no, she threatened to review Lucas's accounts and cut us off. She sighed, the kind of sigh designed to make strangers feel protective. We're starting our marriage in love and positivity, she said, brushing away a tear I would bet $10,000 was artificial. We just want to live without controlling people tearing us down. It's sad when family can't be happy for you. The comments were worse this time. She sounds like a narcissist. Financial abuse is real. Drop her before she ruins your life. Tag her employer, they should know what kind of person they hired. They did. Every video of hers now included the URL of my company in the comments, at Brookline Capital. Why do you employ someone who abuses their family financially? A few had tagged the merger partner as well. The last thing I needed was reputational risk attached to a deal worth hundreds of millions. I called our communications director, Nora, before she could call me. I'm already on it, she said without preamble. Marcus looped me in. We're monitoring everything. So far, it's noise, nothing catching traction with actual journalists. Good. But, she added, if it escalates, we'll need documentation proving you didn't do what she's implying. I have it, I said. And I did. Every transfer. Every bailout. Every signed receipt. Every debt forgiven. Decades of evidence. All right, Nora said gently. We'll keep an eye on it. After the call, I stared at the steam rising from my coffee, feeling both exhausted and hollowed out. There was something deeply surreal about watching your own life be rewritten by someone who wanted villainhood for you like it was a brand collaboration. I needed air. I grabbed my keys, left the condo, and drove to the office. The garage was quiet and cold, fluorescent lights casting soft shadows across concrete. As I stepped into the elevator, my phone buzzed again. Lucas. I let it ring twice before I answered. Hey, he said casually, as if we hadn't just lived through the digital equivalent of a character assassination. Can you send me the card pin again? I closed my eyes. The company card, he clarified, sensing my silence. Tessa wants to upgrade our hotel tonight. The honeymoon suite is gorgeous, but the one above it has a jacuzzi on the terrace. It's not your card, I said. Well, technically, it kind of is. He laughed. You always let me use it. I let you use it within limits. For emergencies. This is an emergency. Tess is super stressed. Wedding planning was, like, traumatic for her. I leaned against the back wall of the elevator. You've exceeded the monthly limit, I said. He scoffed. Just raise it. I'm not raising it. Silence. Then, incredulous, wow. So the rumors were right. What rumors? That you're doing this on purpose. That you're trying to embarrass us. My pulse quickened. You and your wife have been publicly lying about me. Accusing me of things that could damage my career. Oh my God, not everything is about your career, he snapped. It is when she tags my company. Maybe don't give her a reason to. The elevator doors slid open. I didn't give her any reason, I said quietly. You're controlling. You've always been controlling. There it was, the rebranding of responsibility into coercion. When I didn't respond, he said, whatever. I'll just use the card and you can sort it out later. He hung up. He hung up. I stared at the phone, heartbeat pounding against my ribs. He'd crossed the line. Not the financial line, he crossed that years ago. The moral one. But I did nothing. Not yet. Because escalation wasn't something I needed to fight. Escalation was something I needed to document. I walked to my office and opened the corporate card management dashboard. The charges were already there, a $2,300 suite upgrade, a $740 poolside dinner, a $1,150 spa package tagged as relationship healing, and 2 bookings for private yacht excursions. Over $8,000 in 24 hours. I didn't decline the card. I didn't freeze it. I didn't warn him. Not because I was enabling him, but because a trap only works if the target believes they're safe. 3 days later, after the wedding glow had faded and the honeymoon consumption had escalated into something manic, I received an email from HR. Subject: External inquiry regarding CFO office body. A member of the public submitted a complaint alleging financial misconduct related to your family relationships. Please confirm receipt. We will schedule a meeting. If this had been any other executive, I would have been the one advising them on crisis mitigation. Now I was the subject. I met with Marcus in his office. Glass walls, clean lines, a view of the waterfront. He gestured for me to sit. This isn't going to affect the merger, he said. But we need complete transparency. I understand. Have you ever diverted corporate funds to personal family expenses? No, truth. Have you misrepresented any accounts? No. Have you used the company card inappropriately? No. My brother used it, and I reimbursed every personal expense. Marcus nodded. Show me. I pulled out my binder. The receipts. The reimbursements. The documentation. Every dollar accounted for. He flipped through it slowly, nodding. Good, he said. We're fine. But they're escalating. Should we escalate too? That sentence, should we escalate too? Stunned me. You're offering support? You're a key asset, Marcus said simply. We protect our assets. Also, I don't like people who weaponize victim narratives for clicks. He closed the binder. Hire a good lawyer if you haven't already. I have. Use them. That evening, I visited Helen's office. She greeted me with a slow nod, her salt and pepper hair pulled into a low bun, her glasses resting halfway down her nose. She was the kind of attorney who spoke softly but made judges lean in when she did. "What do you want to do?" she asked. "I want to detach," I said. "Cleanly. Legally. Permanently. Then we start with documentation. You've already provided financials. Next, you need consent." Consent? For him to acknowledge the expenses were his. She leaned forward. "You get him to confirm. In writing. Then we proceed." I swallowed. "He'll never agree." Helen's lips curved faintly. "He will if he thinks he's winning." That night, I wrote the email. The one that would become the beginning of the end. Subject: "Let's put this behind us." I kept the tone soft. Defeated. Apologetic in a way that invited cruelty. "Lucas, I'm sorry things have gotten so tense. I never meant to control anything. I love you, and I want you and Tessa to enjoy your honeymoon without worrying about money. I've increased the card limit temporarily. Please take care of each other. Before accounting closes this quarter, I just need to confirm, all the recent expenditures were personal charges you approve, right? Just reply yes so I can file it internally. I don't want this to be a fight. Your sister." I attached a digital signature request as a formality. I read it 3 times. I almost deleted it. Then I hit send. 5 minutes later, he replied, "Yeah, obviously. Stop being dramatic. We'll handle it." He signed the digital form. The trap was set. 2 days later, the first sign of collapse began, not with drama, not with confrontation, but with a quiet, almost beautiful inevitability. A decline transaction. The moment their plane touched down back home, the over-limit reversal kicked in. The card froze. The vehicle assignment updated. The condo access codes reset. And the financial threads they'd built their lifestyle on, my threads, finally snapped. The escalation was complete. The unraveling had begun. I didn't need to be there to witness the first cracks form. People imagine consequences as loud, shouting, slammed doors, sirens. But real financial collapse is quiet. Technical. A string of automated processes firing in perfect sequence. The morning after Lucas landed back in the city, I was in my office reviewing integration budgets when my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Is this the sister? Your brother is causing a scene at the front desk." It was followed by a picture. Not dramatic, just Lucas standing at a hotel counter, hands lifted in disbelief, while Tessa stood beside him with her sunglasses on indoors, radiating venom. I didn't answer. 10 minutes later, my phone rang. "Lucas." I ignored it. He called again. And again. Finally, I stepped into a conference room and answered. "What the hell did you do?" he shouted. "Good morning. Don't play games with me." The card declined. Yes. That happens when someone exceeds the limit by more than triple. "You said you raised it." I did. Temporarily. Until quarter end. "You tricked us." There it was, the accusation he'd been building toward, as though he were the victim of a corporate sting rather than the architect of his own decisions. "I asked you to confirm the charges were personal," I said evenly. "You did. I needed that confirmation for accounting. You knew I wouldn't read that crap. You signed anyway. Because you always fix things." His voice cracked, frustration curling around something like fear. "You always bail me out." "Not anymore." Silence. Not the dramatic kind, the stunned kind. Tessa's voice sliced into the phone. Do you think this is funny? We had plans. We had partnerships lined up, brand deals based on a honeymoon you didn't pay for? I asked. You're destroying us, she screeched. No, I said quietly. I just stopped funding you. A hard, brittle hush followed. Lucas came back on the line, his tone lower. You've embarrassed me. You embarrassed yourself. Oh, so now you're punishing me? No. I'm documenting. He cursed and hung up. I stood there for a moment, the phone still in my hand, feeling neither triumphant nor guilty. Just, resolved. Oddly calm. Like I had stepped out of a burning building and only now smelled the smoke on my clothes. They did not go quietly. Later that afternoon, Lucas and Tessa arrived at my condo building, attempting to bypass security, shouting my name in the lobby. They weren't allowed upstairs. My building staff is used to corporate executives with messy private lives. They know how to neutralize chaos efficiently. Security called me for instructions. Do not let them through, I said. Understood. For the first time in my life, I did not rush to smooth things over. I did not run downstairs to rescue him. I did not step into the conflict with a credit card in my hand, ready to neutralize the crisis with money. Instead, I returned to the conference room. And the truly ironic twist was waiting. The CEO, Marcus, was inside, along with Nora from communications and our internal counsel. They were reviewing something on a large screen. When I entered, Nora turned to me. We thought you should see this. It was one of Tessa's recent videos, except this time, she was crying harder, claiming emotional devastation, hinting at legal threats, insisting that I had sabotaged their accounts out of jealousy. But below the video was a new wave of comments. These two are scammers. I found court docs, her stories don't add up. This looks like entitlement, not abuse. Then the kicker, if she's telling the truth, why didn't she show receipts? The narrative was slipping out of their control. Marcus muted the video. We hired a digital forensics firm to assess reputational risk, he said. They dug into their accounts. My stomach tightened. Why? Because if someone tries to smear one of our executives, we respond. He leaned back. Your brother and his wife have attempted similar campaigns before. Smaller scale. Usually against friends or past employers. I blinked. I didn't know. Most people don't. They delete quickly. Nora added, their engagement patterns are inflated. Roughly 20% of their followers are bots. A quiet disbelief washed through me. For years I had assumed their influence was real, that their confidence came from audience validation, not smoke and mirrors. Marcus folded his hands. We're not going to fire you. We're not going to distance ourselves. We understand exactly what's happening here. And we're giving you full backing. I exhaled slowly. The twist wasn't that I was safe. The twist was that my company, the institution I feared would abandon me at the first sign of scandal, had chosen to stand beside me. We've prepared a legal response for you, counsel said calmly. A formal cease and desist, with defamation clauses. Would you like to send it? I stared at the document displayed on the screen. And for the first time in my adult life, I realized something profound. I wasn't alone. Not in the way I had been when I was 18, holding my world together with duct tape and borrowed time. Not in the way I had been every year since, carrying Lucas's weight as though I had no right to drop it. Support wasn't a debt or a burden. Sometimes, support was given because you'd earned it. I nodded. Send it. As the attorney clicked send, a strange feeling fluttered through me. Not triumph. Not revenge. Relief. Because this wasn't the end. This was only the first twist, the first turn in a path leading somewhere I had never allowed myself to walk. Away. The next 48 hours unfolded with the strange clarity of a chapter I'd already read once before in a book I barely remembered buying. I moved through my routines, morning briefings, budget revisions, merger calls, yet underneath everything, a quiet current pulsed, this ends now. On my terms. With evidence. With finality. I knew Lucas. I knew his patterns better than he knew them himself. Whenever he felt cornered, he didn't back down, he escalated. Not out of strategy, but out of panic dressed as bravado. So I waited. Waited for him to make the next predictable mistake. It took less than a day. I was in the middle of reviewing asset sheets when Nora rushed into my office without knocking. "You need to see this," she said, breathless in a way I'd never seen from her. She set her tablet down and pressed play. It was a long video, longer than their usual content. 15 minutes. A monologue from Lucas and Tessa, framed on their living room couch with dramatic lighting and puffy eyes that suggested either recent crying or a ring light malfunction. Tessa spoke first. When someone abuses their position of power, when they use money to control others. Lucas chimed in, "My sister, who works in corporate finance, has been trying to sabotage our life because she's jealous of my marriage." Then they did it. They named my company. They listed my job title. They claimed I used insider connections to freeze their accounts. Which was absurd, and illegal to claim, for them. But the twist wasn't that they smeared me again. The twist was who responded. Within minutes, my company's legal team posted an official statement. "The allegations made against our executive are categorically false. Any attempts to defame or harass our employees will be met with legal action." Not a vague PR message. A formal, public, corporate swing. Then Marcus called me. "We're done playing defense," he said. "Take them apart." My breath caught. Take them apart? You heard me. You have our full backing. Clean separation. Legal closure. He paused. "I doubt you've ever been given permission to choose yourself over your brother. Consider this that permission." That sentence shook something loose in me. Permission. No one had ever given me that before. At 7 p.m., I met Helen in her office again. She'd already anticipated my arrival. 2 thick folders sat on her desk. "One for financial separation," she said, tapping the first. "One for legal boundaries." "What do we do?" "We use the tools you've been giving him for years," she said simply. "Except now we use them to free you." She opened the financial folder. First, formal revocation of all authorizations tied to my accounts, corporate and personal. Then, repossession papers for the company vehicle he'd been driving for 2 years. Then, condo access removal forms, since he was listed as an emergency occupant, a status he no longer qualified for. Then, a debt discharge form documenting the tens of thousands I'd forgiven over the last decade. "Is that necessary?" I asked quietly. Helen pushed her glasses up. "Discharged debt becomes taxable income to the recipient. The IRS will see it as earned income. He'll owe taxes on it." "How much?" "Rough estimate? Low 6 figures." I exhaled. Not in triumph, in exhaustion. "That will crush him." "It will hold him accountable," she corrected. "You didn't create the consequences. You simply stopped shielding him from them." She was right. Lucas wasn't collapsing because I punished him. He was collapsing because for the first time in his life, I wasn't holding him upright. Then she opened the second folder. "This is your legal separation," she said. "A no-contact agreement. Enforceable. Long-term." I stared at the pages, clean, crisp, the words carrying more weight than paper should. "He'll never sign that," I said. "Oh, he will," Helen replied, closing the folder. "Because he's about to hit rock bottom, and you're going to be the only person offering him a way out." I frowned. "I don't want to rescue him." "You're not." She leaned in. "You're giving him a structured end. That's different." Then she said something that silenced the air between us. "Closure can be an act of mercy. Even when it hurts." The next morning, at 9:13 a.m., all revocations went through. At 9:17, the condo building removed his access. At 9:22, the company's asset manager confirmed the vehicle retrieval was scheduled for noon. At 9:39, the IRS received automated notification of discharged debt. And at exactly 10:01 a.m., I received a text from Lucas, "Where's my truck?" No question mark. Just raw, simmering panic. Then, "My key fob isn't working." "Did you change something?" Then, "This is ridiculous. Fix this now." Then, "Are you really doing this to me?" And finally, "Please." That last one didn't break me. It clarified me. I typed, "We need to meet." 4 p.m. Helen's office. He responded, "Fine." He didn't know it yet, but he was walking straight into the final stage of the plan, one that required no yelling, no cruelty, no spectacle. Just a single piece of paper and a signature. At 4 p.m., Lucas entered Helen's conference room looking small. Not physically, emotionally. His shoulders hunched, his eyes darting, his mouth tight with the effort of pretending he wasn't afraid. Tessa wasn't with him. That surprised me more than it should have. He sat. Didn't look at me. "Where's the truck?" he demanded. "You'll get an answer after we settle one matter," Helen said smoothly. Lucas blinked. "What matter?" She slid the no-contact agreement toward him. "This," she said, "is the only condition under which your sister agrees to help you resolve the current consequences." He stared at the document. Then at me. Then back at the document. "You're cutting me off," he whispered. "I'm releasing both of us," I said. Tears rimmed his eyes. Whether from grief or humiliation, I couldn't tell. "You raised me," he said. "You promised." "I promised to take care of you," I said softly. "Not to destroy myself for you." Silence stretched, long and thin. "Sign it," Helen said gently, "and you walk away with clean boundaries. A fresh start. On your own terms." His hands shook as he picked up the pen. For a second, I thought he wouldn't go through with it. That he'd throw the pen, or storm out, or shout. Instead, he signed. It was not a victory. It was not revenge. It was closure. A clean, quiet end to a story that had dragged me through half my life. When he left the room, he didn't look back. And for the first time since our mother died, my heart didn't lurch after him. I stayed seated, breathing evenly, as Helen gathered the papers. "It's done," she said. Yes. It was. But the real payoff, the real breaking point, was still coming. The moment where everything finally snapped and the last emotional tie shattered. Lucas didn't implode immediately. People rarely do. Even the most unstable structures take time before the fractures become visible. Over the next week, he tried to rebuild some version of stability, or at least the illusion of it. I knew this because, despite the no-contact agreement, word still found its way to me through indirect channels. A mutual cousin, a neighbor of his, a tagged post that slipped through filters before my team took it down. From what I gathered, Tessa had not taken the news well. She'd screamed about sabotage, about me stealing her future, about how she had married into trauma. And when the truck was officially repossessed, a company asset reclaimed with clinical efficiency, she apparently accused Lucas of tricking her into a poverty marriage. By the third day, she had packed a suitcase and moved into a friend's apartment, temporarily. Her definition of temporary tended to stretch with convenience. Lucas unraveled shortly after that. Because for the first time in his adult life, he tried to stand on his own financial legs, and discovered they weren't legs at all. They were stilts I had been holding steady since he was 16, and the moment I let go, he toppled. His credit score had been artificially buoyed by my accounts. His living situation depended on the condo's emergency occupant status. His transportation depended on a company vehicle never meant for personal use. His safety net was me. Only me. Remove me, and there was nothing. Still, I expected him to adapt eventually. I didn't expect what happened instead. It was a Thursday night. I was leaving the office late, the merger closing was days away and every department was in overdrive. My hair was pulled into a low, tired knot. My heels clicked softly against the underground parking garage floor as I walked toward my assigned spot. That's when I saw him. Lucas. Standing beside my car. His clothes were wrinkled, his face unshaven, his eyes ringed with exhaustion and something darker. Desperation sharpened into recklessness. My stomach tightened. You're violating the agreement. He ignored that. You can't do this to me. I already did, I said quietly. He stepped forward. You ruined my life. No, Lucas. I stopped funding it. He let out a laugh, jagged, almost feral. Do you know what people are saying? Do you have any idea how embarrassed I am? Everyone thinks I'm a freeloader. A joke. I didn't speak. Say something, he shouted, voice echoing off the concrete pillars. I took a measured breath. Go home. I don't have a home. His voice cracked. She left. The condo won't let me in. The truck is gone. I can't get a rental because the card declines in my credit, that isn't my fault. He ran a hand through his hair, agitated. You owe me. You promised Mom you'd take care of me. It struck me then how deeply that sentence had shaped us both, how he had internalized it as entitlement, while I'd internalized it as duty. I took care of you for 15 years, I said. I kept that promise long after it stopped being healthy for either of us. He shook his head violently. No. No, you're abandoning me. Like everyone else. He took a step closer. Then another. His fists were clenched. My pulse accelerated, not out of fear, but out of recognition. This was the moment. The breaking point. The place where the old dynamic would either resurrect or shatter for good. Give me your keys, he said. No, I need your car. No, he reached past me, fingers brushing my wrist, going for my purse, for the keys inside. That was when security intervened. 2 guards emerged from the stairwell, having seen the confrontation on the garage cameras. They pulled him back, firm but professional. He struggled, shouting, twisting, until they restrained him. This is a private corporate garage, one guard said. You're trespassing. Lucas fought harder. Let me go. That's my sister. She owes me. Sir, you need to stand down. I just need her keys. She'll fix everything if she just, sir, stop resisting. They cuffed him. The sound of the metal clicking shut echoed like a full stop at the end of a sentence I'd been writing my entire adult life. They escorted him toward the security office. He kept shouting my name, voice cracking, desperation dissolving into something childlike. Please. Please don't leave me. I'm all alone. I couldn't look at him. I leaned against my car, breathing slowly, letting myself feel the tremor of adrenaline, the ache behind my eyes, the weight of a grief I hadn't yet fully named. Mom would have hated this. Mom would have believed he could still be saved. Mom would have asked me to fix it. But Mom wasn't here. And I was done sacrificing my sanity on an altar she never meant to build. At 11:04 p.m., I received a call from the precinct. Ma'am, your brother was taken into custody for trespassing and attempted forced entry into a restricted area. He's asking for you. I closed my eyes. Do you want to post bail? The officer asked. I thought about it carefully. This was a hinge moment. A turning point. A chance to rewrite 15 years of patterns. Yes, I said. Under one condition. I called Helen. At the precinct, Lucas sat behind a metal table, wrists swollen where the cuffs had been. The fluorescent light made him look younger, as if the years had peeled off and left only the frightened boy I'd once known. He looked up when I entered. Thank God, he breathed. Let's go home. We're not going home, I said softly. Helen placed the paperwork on the table. You will be released tonight, she said, but only if you sign this. He stared at it. What is it? A binding no-contact order, I said. Permanent. You cannot call me, visit me, tag me, or involve me in your financial life in any capacity. His face crumpled. You're choosing strangers over me. No, I whispered. I'm choosing peace. He shook his head. I don't understand. You don't have to, I said. You just have to let me go. He looked down at the paper. Then at me. Then back at the paper. Slowly, hand trembling, he picked up the pen. And signed. That signature was the real collapse. Not the repossession. Not the revoked access. Not the live streams or the debt or the lawyers. This was the moment I released a responsibility that never should have been mine alone. A responsibility that had eaten whole decades of my life. When he was escorted out with his belongings, he didn't look back. I finally did. Not at him, but at the version of myself who had carried him this far. And I let her go too. The payoff wasn't revenge. It was freedom. Quiet, steady, earned. 2 years later, I can pinpoint the exact moment my life began again. It wasn't the day Lucas signed the no-contact agreement. It wasn't the night in the parking garage or the repossession or the legal filings. It was the morning I woke up and realized I wasn't afraid of my phone anymore. No emergencies waiting. No crises disguised as apologies. No guilt looping through my mind like a song I couldn't turn off. Just silence, clean, steady, undemanding. I had transferred offices 6 months earlier, relocating to our firm's international division in Vancouver. A new skyline, a new pace, a new role, Chief Financial Officer with full strategic autonomy. My apartment overlooked the harbor, where cargo ships glided slowly against pale gold dawns. The air here feels different. Spacious. Like breathing without bracing. I still think of Lucas sometimes, not with anger, not with longing, but with a kind of settled sadness. The way you think about a childhood home that no longer exists. A place that shaped you but cannot be returned to. I don't know where he is now. I don't track him. Our agreement ensures silence on both sides. It's a boundary, not a wound. Some boundaries heal by existing. Last year, I created something I wish had existed when I was 18, the Firstborn Foundation. A scholarship and mentorship program for young adults who've taken on caregiving roles too early, kids who worked jobs while raising siblings, or who managed households while navigating grief. The application essays are raw and honest in ways that make me step away from the screen sometimes just to breathe. One submission stayed with me, a 17-year-old girl caring for her younger siblings after their father's overdose. She dreams of starting a childcare cooperative so other kids don't have to grow up overnight like she did. She wrote, "I don't want a handout. I want a chance." I funded her fully. Not because she reminded me of Lucas, she didn't. She reminded me of myself. The version of me who needed someone to say, "You don't have to carry all of this alone." I wear my father's watch now. Not every day, some mornings the weight of it is too much. But today, as I step onto my balcony overlooking the water, the metal sits warm and steady against my wrist. Once, it symbolized obligation. Now it symbolizes continuity, not of duty, but of resilience. Of the idea that we can inherit burdens and still build different futures. Last week, my assistant forwarded an email that had bounced. A message sent to my old address. From Lucas. The system filters caught it before I could see the contents. Legal boundaries held. For once, I didn't feel the urge to read it. I didn't wonder if he needed help or money or forgiveness. I simply hit delete. Not out of cruelty. Out of peace. Because sometimes the healthiest decision you can make is to not reopen a door you finally had the strength to close. That evening, I stood on my balcony with a cup of mint tea, watching the harbor lights shimmer like a constellation laid sideways across the water. The air was cool, the city hummed soft and distant. For the first time in decades, the silence felt beautiful. Not empty. Just free. If you like this story, feel free to subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next one.